All right, so who is this man? Who did he know? Who was he in touch with? The suspect in this second attempt on former President Donald Trump's life in just about 2 months. So here is what he said in some of his writings, this man, Roof. He said, "You are free to assassinate Trump." He wrote this of Iran in an apparently self-published book, which described Trump as a fool and a buffoon for the January 6th event and the, quote, tremendous blunder of leaving the Iranian nuclear deal. That, according to the Associated Press. So with that, let's bring in Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, former director of the CIA. He is currently a Fox News contributor. Mike Pompeo, great to have you with us today. Your thoughts
Great to be with you, Martha.
Thank you. And on this individual, you obviously also, it's publicly known that you receive protection from our government because Iran has threatened your life as well. What are your thoughts on all this?
You know, when I see this fellow get so close to the president, someone who has clearly articulated a vision for the president's assassination, for whatever set of reasons, sounds like he was urging the United States to do something fundamentally different than we did in the Trump administration on Iran. It's a systemic failure now. 2 months, 2 tries, 2 guys who get really close, 2 guys who don't appear to be particularly organized or competent. And Martha, I can't wait to see what we learn, but it appears there's no evidence that there were lessons learned in Butler that were material to keeping the perimeter around the president. And I've heard others say, gosh, we need to make sure he has security that's equal to that of the President of the United States. I always think when it comes to protection, it's about threats. And I think there's no doubt today the president is the most threatened person on the U.S. Senior leadership team. He ought to have the security that is appropriate for that, and clearly that has not been established yet. And to suggest somehow this is a resource problem, that Congress hasn't appropriated enough money, is silly. President Biden could do whatever he needed, put whatever big a team from whatever department of agency to actually secure the perimeter for the President of the United States and protect him and other American officials from not only these what appear to be lone folks, but organized threats that are surely to continue to materialize in the weeks ahead as well, Martha.
Well, it's interesting you say who appear to be lone folks, because this investigation is just beginning, and we don't know yet whether he was inspired by any of these other. We also know that Asif Merchant was arrested and was trying to flee the country July 12th. He was a Pakistani man with apparently connections to Iran who was trying to assassinate the president. President Biden, Nikki Haley were on his list. So let me play this soundbite. This has to do with his interest in the war in Ukraine. He went over there. The Ukrainian Foreign Legion says he never was associated with them as a fighter. But watch this. It's just about 12 seconds long. This is Mr.
When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here to fight, that is heroism. You know, he's coming here to risk his life for humanity, for the Ukrainians.
What does that tell you? As a former CIA director, what questions would you have?
Well, first of all, it does suggest that he was paying a lot of attention to world events, and this was certainly driving him, motivating him. It's hard to know what to make of who he was talking to, who he was working with in Ukraine, but I did intentionally use the word appear to be alone. We don't know the answer to this. The difference between being inspired by and connected to an external threat actor is pretty slim sometimes, Martha. We need to make sure we chase every one of those leads to the ground, from both the first incident and now this one. And then, Martha, you know, we, the public, don't know exactly, too. The Secret Service kept this one from killing President Trump. We don't know how many others they may have foiled that never made the public eye, that they have taken down, that may have involved external threat actors. This now appears to be a systemic attempt on the president that is broad and deep, and the security needs to match this real threat against him.
You know, what would you like to see today from President Biden or from Mr. Rowe, the acting head of the Secret Service, in terms of assuring the people, okay, these are the additional layers of protection he's going to get as of this minute?
Yeah, this is really simple. This is really simple. You talk to your team, you build your team, you lay out what exactly it is you need. If you were short folks to clear the perimeter from 1,000 meters or 2,000 meters, whatever it is you need, if the president is going to a rally or to play golf or to visit his family, or wherever it is the president may go, you have an obligation to make sure that he is secure, and they should lay down a marker. They don't need to tell us what they're doing. I don't want the bad guys to know exactly what our security TPPs, what our plans and processes are. But he needs to expand that deeply and double and triple down on the amount of security necessary to make sure that not only for these next 49 or 50 days, but so long as there's the threat on the president or the former president, he needs to make sure he gets it right. It's his responsibility. He has the resources. He should demand them from the President of the United States, and he should make clear to the American people, we're not going to let this happen yet a third time.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that levels of assurances need to be ratcheted up and backed by action, because there is every reason for Americans to think that that the former president is not safe. We've seen it. We've been there twice. And, just by the grace of God and, some combination of luck, whatever you want to call it, these were thwarted. But these people had every ability to get a shot off.
This is serious business, Martha.
It is very, very serious business, and I hope we see some commensurately serious measures taken immediately to protect this candidate and former president. Mike Pompeo, always good to see you, sir. Thank you so much. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Martha. Have a good afternoon.
You as well.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.